It's 12 o'clock. We can say good afternoon. Now it's 12 o'clock. We can now say good afternoon. And good afternoon and welcome to the final session of what's been a really hectic morning at the Retail Bulletin. We've already got through three megastar panels, which have had brilliant engagement. And this is no different. We're going to wrap it up in style. So welcome back. I hope you're warm and cozy inside, drinking something warm, because the weather outside where we are is absolutely shocking. I'm Darren, I'll moderate the session. This is Scamp. She's decided to join me to co-host, hopefully just for the first few moments, and she'll probably go on and do something far more important shortly. But yeah, we'll be your host and moderator for the session today. Your involvement so far has been absolutely brilliant. So depending on what device you're on, somewhere there's a Q&A button. Keep using it, because my job as moderator is to make sure that every single question that gets asked gets answered. And we have got three brilliant people that I'm sure you're going to want to ask questions of. So without further ado, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and we can crack on talking about shopping experiences, seamless shopping experiences through the channels. We actually use the word omnichannel in the program, and I'm not a fan of omnichannel as a word, because I think customers don't think, what channel am I going to shop in today? They think about going to a brand, and they think about accessing that brand however they want. So I might avoid that O word, it's slightly annoying, but you get the drift, right? Right, let's get people to introduce themselves. So Ian, if I can start with you, sir. Who are you? Where are you from?
Morning, Darren. My name's Ian McDonald. I'm a consultant specialising in online businesses and multi-channel, avoiding omni-channel. I also work as an executive coach and a team coach, because a lot of the time companies grow, which is my speciality, through the performance of the people within them. So that coaching adds an extra dimension.
Welcome, sir. You're very welcome to be on the panel today, and we look forward to having a good old chinwag about the content we've got ahead of us as well. Hello, Chrissy. Welcome back to the Retail Bulletin. You've been with us before, so thanks for coming back again.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. My name is Chrissy, as Darren said, and I am co-founder and creative director at Bird & Blend Tea Company. And we are an independent business, started from scratch from a back bedroom 9 years ago. We have soon to be 15 retail stores across the UK and a thriving international site. We specialise in innovative blends of tea.
Thank you and welcome. And you know, we've been talking a lot about today about this ongoing 2-decade argument of, is the high street dead? And I think, you know, brands like yours are testament to the fact that it's not dead at all, and there's still interesting things and stories to be told in our local high street. So you're very welcome. And then David, hello, Ribble Cycle.
Hello.
Tell us about you and your brand, sir.
Thanks, Darren. Yep, so I'm David Stacey. I'm Commercial and Operations Director of Ribble Cycles. We've been around since 1897, and we're the UK's premium direct-to-consumer bike brand. So we offer bikes to the end consumer. We don't sell through independent bike shops. We have 5 of our own showrooms across the country, rapidly expanding. We've just opened 2 of those in the last 8 weeks. And yeah, doing some exciting things, or at least I like to think so, doing some exciting things in retail at the moment.
I think another example of a retailer that is still counting on physical space as an important part of the story. If you saw me throw something then, that was Scamp's rubber chicken, because she decided to present it to me, and it's the noisiest toy she's got. It's almost like she knows Daddy's just started a Zoom, so I'm going to be as loud as annoying as possible. So said rubber chicken has now been launched into the hallway, and hopefully she's going to stay out there with it. So let's get things going. Great panel, I'm sure you agree. Get these questions coming in, Q&A button, it's all yours to use, and I'll make sure the panelists get the answers to you as well. There's another dog, another dog on the screen. Brilliant. We've got all the dogs are coming for the final session.
I think you can hear the squeaky toy.
Oh really? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
If I keep going on mute, you know the rubber chicken has got closer again as well. So let's get things going. All the dogs are welcome. In this virtual world we live in, all welcome. Partners, children, dogs, animals, guinea pigs, rabbits, you name it, bring them all on screen. We're one big family. Ian, let's get going. So okay. I'm going to start with you if I can, please, sir. Retailers have had it tough. They've had it tough for a couple of decades, really, since online rose, and then the crash of '08, and then just a small detail of a pandemic and continued online graph going up, up, up. Do retailers really reflect the needs and expectations of their shoppers, though?
I think the answer is often no, because my experience has been a lot of retailers, and this includes times when I've headed up marketing inside a retailer, we don't spend enough time really understanding who our customers are and what matters to them. We focus on technology, operations, the design of the organization, but we don't always put the customer really center stage. We talk about it, but we don't always do it. So the glib answer is no, not always. But I think overall, people, in order to grow their businesses, maintain market share, they really have to be listening and thinking about their customers. But could they do more? Almost certainly, yes.
I just wonder, that last point, could they do more? And why? If they could, why don't they?
I think sometimes there isn't necessarily the understanding of what really matters to the customer. So it's very easy to get caught up in what other people are doing for their customers, as opposed to what do we need to do. There's mesmerizing technology out there. You can spend fortunes, you can hire consultants, you can really go to town with creating this, in quotes, joined up approach. But if that's not exactly what customers need and value, if that's not, would you be better off investing in retail space, in display, in website? What really makes a difference? And I think that understanding of the customer, that connection with them, talking to them, perhaps doesn't happen enough.
Thank you, sir. Chrissy, I'm going to come to you. You've obviously mentioned your retail estate is expanding, and there's a lot of doom and gloom out there. So if there's retailers online now with multiple sales channels, including retail, of course, including retail shops, what are their opportunities? What can they do with those multiple sales channels? What would you share with them?
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. We get this a lot. It's a lot of sort of naysaying and doom and gloom about the high street. And I'm incredibly passionate about the high street, have been since we started. Back in the day when we were first starting out, we were approached by nearly all of the major supermarkets, and, early business mentors were saying, we're a food and drink brand, get your product onto the supermarket shelves. It's an easier business model, it's way more achievable, and the high street is dying. But we are very, very passionate about human experience and about that human touch point, and wanted to create, and selfishly wanted to create a product that was delivered in a fun and creative way rather than being account managers. So we've always stuck to that. And I think that in a pre and post-COVID world, it's still important. And what I talk about quite a lot is this sort of retail 2.0, which I think we need to keep in our minds coming out of COVID. And the thing is that the high street is a challenge, but it's a challenge to be taken. And if you can approach it in the correct way, at the moment, brands like ours are able to grab fantastic opportunities on the high street that we never would have got before. We've just opened a shop in Exeter on the high street, and also in Glasgow, that we would never have been able to negotiate on prior to COVID. So there are literally like retail estate opportunities there. It's easier to shine and stand out if you get it right, because the people, the high street isn't that much of an exciting space. So the brands that are doing it well are way ahead of the curve. So you're able to really pull that footfall into your space. It's less competitive. There's so many opportunities to, really rethink the way that you're delivering your in-store experience, which is causing businesses big and small to reevaluate what matters and what they're about and how to engage the customer, which obviously we prefer to not be under pressure to do that, but the actual act of doing that is very valuable to a business. So yes, it's a very different model, and to some extent we do have to put some work into inspiring our digital channel our digital customers a lot more to come into store. But if you can get your head around the fact it's a different approach, it actually could end up, and in our case will end up being more profitable as well, because you sell to your customers online, you know, you've got that convenience, the margins are great, all of that sort of thing, and then your in-store spaces are your showrooms. And actually we found, you know, post-COVID world, that actually that's more profitable on our bottom line. Our GP is better because of that. So if you can get a head around it, yes, if you can pivot quick enough, absolutely there's opportunities to be gained. That doesn't mean it's easy though, I appreciate it's tough.
Do you find with your customers at Bird and Blend, and you've got great engagement at Bird and Blend, I know, but do you find your customers are quite entrenched in the way they shop? So the online crowd stay online and the shop crowd stay in shop, or do you see some crossing between channels going on?
Yeah, we do see some crossing, and actually that's one of the things that we have invested in this year, is the data behind, like pulling our systems together so that we can understand that data better, the customer journey. So we do have shoppers that shop with us across multiple touch points. What we're seeing at the moment though, which is quite interesting, is that we've had to switch up the way that we're doing our marketing, because we've got this pool of online only customers since COVID that we didn't have before. And so now our marketing strategy has changed from being multi-channel customers, in-store customers, getting them online, to this big chunk of online customers that have never been in a store. You know, coming out of COVID, we had customers that shopped with us 3-4 times online and had no idea there was even a high street store near them. So there's you know, our strategies changed to inspire them. And one of the questions we asked ourselves was, do we actually want our digital customers to come in store? Is that what we want? And the answer was absolutely yes, because that's where the brand loyalty is made. That's where they get attached. That's where they get the amazing experience, the knowledge, the team. And those touch points are what make you that sort of love mark brand. And it's a lot harder to do with a purely digital channel. And
I'm on your database, and I see, so you've been using your email blast to try and get us into store as well. So in-store events that you've been doing, and so on as well. So again, using that channel to drive into the other channel as well has been good. Thank you indeed. Have a sip of tea and I'll come back to you shortly as well. David, over to you guys at Ribble. You guys have kind of built your brand around that kind of real consistency between the physical and the digital. What advice would you give to brands looking to achieve that consistency between the two different touch points?
Well, I think to pick up on the point Chrissy was just making, I think the foremost point to make clear is that you have to understand why you're doing a physical retail proposition at all, in our case, or a digital proposition if you're coming at it from the other way around. You know, as per Ian's point around understanding what customers really want to see, I think when you can get those two objectives aligned, when you can understand what the customer wants and you can achieve your own objectives, whether that be brand experience, as Chrissy was talking about, or perhaps commercial goals, then I think that's when you really hit the sweet spot. And it's probably also worth saying that I think achieving those two things also lead you to be able to have far more leverage with landlords, so that when you are coming to agree commercially viable property deals, for example, they're keen to get you in. I mean, for example, with Ribble, we have our pick of the locations across the country now because of what we're doing. And landlords want us in their schemes, even, you know, whether that's a private landlord or a big national operator, and that makes things far better, both in a commercial sense but also in an activation sense once you're there, because everybody's engaged with making it work. So when it comes to executing experiences and events and that sort of thing, you've got the backing of all the key people who are involved. And yeah, to kind of build on Chris's point from our perspective, we have a very clear mission with our retail stores, which is to get that touch point, as Chrissy was talking about for her brand as well. But importantly for us, there's also a really key commercial driver here, which is that we know if we get a customer into one of our showrooms, they will spend more, they're less likely to cancel, they're far more likely to be a promoter of the brand, and we know they're far more likely to repeat more regularly, which when you're talking about bikes at £2,000, £3,000 is a real key commercial driver of our business. So we know that if we can get customers in to have that great brand experience, not only will it be good for the brand overall, it'll also be good for the bottom line. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. I think a lot of people approach the multi-channel world with we've just got to do it. We're almost feeling like it's something that they have to tick a box for. And I think if it's not clear what you're trying to achieve, both commercially and as a brand, you're bound to get it wrong. And, as Ian said, if you can overlay your customer requirements in that as well, you're going to win. And that's what we've done quite successfully.
I guess as well, because you have a deservedly high price point for such an amazing quality piece of kit. The physical space, I guess, it lends itself to the importance of that considered decision that your customers are making.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, we are selling. I mean, in one sense, we're quite favoured in that regard, because you don't have to buy a Ribble bike. You want to buy a Ribble bike. If you're in the position of needing to buy a bike, you have many options. When we can get a customer in the mindset of wanting to buy a bike, they will move heaven and earth to come and see us. In where I am today in the Clitheroe store, which is in the northwest of England in Lancashire, we have great data, so we can see exactly where our customers are coming from. And just within the last 2 weeks, we've had customers come from the very tip of Scotland right down to the very tip of Cornwall. People travel, they book hotels to come and see us. They'll stay over, they'll make an event of it, they'll bring the bike, they'll go for a ride. Sometimes they arrange to go for a ride with the store team on the bike they're considering to ride. That kind of execution really plays into what the customer wants from the experience, which is to understand the brand and to experience the product. And if we crammed our showrooms full of clothing and inner tubes and nutrition and big discounts on our products, that's not why you travel for 500 miles and book a hotel and bring your wife with you. You do that when you want to come, and it's a heart decision as much as a head decision.
And got it. And your background is actually a shot of your Clitheroe store, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to come and visit. I keep saying so. Thank you for that, sir. Take a sip of something, and I'll come back to you shortly as well. Ian, there's lots of buzzwords in retail, and one of them is connected shopping. And retailers talk about it, but I'm not sure a consumer really knows what it means. But is developing connected shopping enough to gain some competitive advantage?
Well, I think if it's done well, yes. And you said I'm not sure if customers really notice it. And I think that's what you're aiming for, really. It's how can you literally be seamless? What does connected have to be meaningful to the customer? I guess several decades as a retail marketing person has taught me the most important thing in retail is product. If we set that aside for a moment, because if you don't have a really engaging product and a proposition to the customer for what you're selling and why they should be buying it, then it is about service, connectivity, being joined up, where the product is the starting point for being different, differentiating yourself from other brands. But the service that you offer, the convenience, if you think, well, going back to the previous point, what does matter to customers? Quite often it's trust, which I think came up in the previous session quite a lot. It's convenience of shopping, of trying, as Chrissy and David have both said, the experience of can I come and taste the product? Can I sit on the bike? Can I have my measurements taken and so on? And then what? Do I need to buy there and then? There's probably a big difference in frequency of purchase between David and Chrissy's businesses. So for Chrissy, it might be people coming into a store and saying, this is great, I've tasted 5 teas, I know what I want, I'm going to be ordering online in future, that's easy. With David, I'm not saying it's a one-off purchase, but it's a lot less frequent. It might be family purchases and so on. So the experience is even more important, I'm guessing. So when I've had the experience, online or in store, what then happens? How am I being served? How can I get my product? How can I be sure about it? How can I have confidence in the retailer? What do I do if it's not quite right? So being connected probably means joining up all of those things. It's not just I can order in a store or I can order online. It's being able to meet the customer where they are at any point on the whole journey.
And just to pick up on Ian's point there, if I may, I think it's also about the connected these days doesn't just refer, we shouldn't just be thinking about it as the way the technologies themselves interact, but also how one experience with the brand can relate to another experience with the brand. For example, we know that every customer who buys one of our bikes on average has 7 interactions with us, whether that's in the showrooms, on the phone, through live chat, on our website. And having that consistent is just as important as having it kind of connected and that they talk to one another. Making sure that the brand speaks consistently no matter where you encounter it is really important.
Thank you, guys. Chrissy, I'm going to come back to you, if I may, with buzzwords. I mentioned omnichannel at the start in my intro, and it's a word that retailers use more than customers, for sure. But out there's still retail directors and online directors that are working in the same business that don't necessarily work together. Is anyone actually delivering on the word omnichannel?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just also going to say it's really cool. I always know when I'm on a good panel when I'm scribbling notes down myself. So these two talking, I'm like, right, remember this. So it's
a compliment, guys. Absolutely.
Sorry, right? Yeah, is omnichannel a buzzword? Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think that omnichannel is often considered as a sales channel, or maybe even like a seamless customer journey, or even a sales strategy. Like when it's talked in the boardroom or whatever, that they're the like KPI and the measurables and things. But actually, I think it isn't a sales strategy in its pure form. What it is about, ultimately, it's about showing up for your customers when and where they need it, and ideally even before they know that they need that. That is what, that is it in a nutshell. I mean, applying it is another matter for sure. But I actually try and think about omnichannel as more of an approach to achieving that, more of a mentality, because then you also have to back that up, not just with the channels you're selling through, but you also have to have an omnichannel approach to data and the way that you understand and work out what your customer wants. It has to go across everything. So having joined up sales channels, or even like really clever tech that is personalized, and all of this, all of these things you can plug into all your things to do automation and whatever based on what the customer thinks. Really, if you don't have the approach within your business and within your teams to be backing up your presumptions and your actions with data, and that data is fully geared into telling you what your customer wants and needs are, I don't really think that anyone can say that they're truly omnichannel. It's a mindset, I think, is what I'm trying to say, not necessarily a strategy that has to go through everything that you do. And I think there's been brands that have been doing it amazingly for years. But to go back to my original point, I think COVID has kind of forced a lot of other brands to have a think about what that means to them, which is great. Well, it should be great, because we should all end up with much better experiences, hopefully.
A good example of kind of a real tension that occurs through that omnichannel thinking, and how businesses have to think about the challenge properly to resolve it, and that we face in our businesses. For example, you have a website and you have a showroom, and then we've got, as it happens, we've got a central sales team as well who deal with inbound phone calls. But if you imagine a customer walking into that showroom, if you're not careful and you measure the showroom purely on sales that are done within that showroom, you will basically create a hard sell environment where the colleague will be trying their best to sell that bike or the product, whatever, to the consumer as they come into the showroom, because they're focused on store sales, and they know that if they get that sale over the line, it's going to be good for them, and they don't want the customer to walk away. They want to convert them there and then. That kind of mentality is not consistent with an omnichannel approach, because forcing the customer to make a decision at that point is rarely the right decision for the customer. And you really have to work hard internally, because reporting where those touch points were, and as Chrissy said, you've got to think about where the data comes from. If that customer in the end converts, months later online, how do you credit the store for their part in that journey so that they feel like they're being recognized? Without causing that kind of bad experience for a customer. And it sounds easy to do, but it's actually very hard, because nor do you want the store team to lose all focus on sales. So there is a balancing act to be done there, in my opinion.
All gone. I was going to say, it does affect with us as well. Like when because we're growing quite quickly, we heavily invest in either, we've got an internal retail management program where we train managers up from within, or we have a really extensive training and induction period for retail managers that come from elsewhere, because they have ingrained years and years of that mentality of it has to go through my till, my ATV has to be high, you know, I have to dodge my footfall counters. So we have to either train people internally to get our approach, or we have to almost not re-brainwash them, because that sounds terrible, but you know, we have to kind of knock it out of them, because exactly what David says is happen, you know, and we get feedback from our retail managers all the time in their, you know, in their first 6 months to say what a different environment it is to work in. It's more challenging in many ways, but it's also more enjoyable, I think.
It's one of the reasons we recruit from hospitality more than we recruit from retail, because if you're in hospitality, you don't care about where that customer's buying their stay from in your hotel. You care about them having a fantastic experience, and that's basically what we're trying to mimic.
Thank you both. I'm gonna come back to you, David, if I may. This is just a slight pivot from Simon. So thank you for that, Simon. Simon is talking about Bill Grimes's talk this morning. If you didn't see it, Bill was talking about traffic-free high streets. So Simon specifically wants to know, David, do you think e-bikes are part of the solution to traffic-free town centres with secure e-bike parking?
Yeah, no, there's a topic we could spend the next 5 hours talking about. So
a whole webinar there, probably.
Yeah. I mean, the quick answer is yes, of course. I would add, and I would say that there is a number of reasons to favour an e-bike model over some of the other competing models, like, for example, electric scooters. Perhaps this isn't the place to go into all the detail of that, but that's certainly my opinion. I think on a wider point, I think it's more about bikes in general than e-bikes. I think for most people, especially when you're talking about short journeys, most people are capable of doing that journey on a regular bike. And I think the challenge that exists for e-bike infrastructure are just the same for bikes. The key things, without going on about this, which is could do for hours, but the key things for me are about giving people a protected, safe route into those environments. So, you know, having properly segmented cycle paths that aren't just local councils doing a bit of a box ticking exercise of painting a line on a busy road that runs out at the key bit as you approach a junction. You know, we have to do a proper job of that in this country, and some areas are better than others, but in general, that is the main reason people cite. You know, when we talk to our customers, you talk to the general public, the reason they don't do more journeys by bike is safety, and we can do something about that. Obviously, the more kind of pragmatic things in the UK that become an issue are weather. There's not much we can do about that, but being properly equipped and educating customers to, you know what kind of kit to wear, and, you know, when to ride and when not to ride, all that kind of stuff can also address it. So I think the quick answer is yes, they definitely could, but it will require investment to make a step change. And there are signs the government's going to do that, but we've been in that position many times in the past, and it never really comes to fruition. So it's hard not to be sceptical, I guess.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Dan, in an earlier session today, I don't know if anybody else saw it, Penny Grivier from Rituals Cosmetics in the Netherlands said that they do store fulfillment, and the orders are delivered by bike, by staff, which works in the Netherlands because they have that sort of safe environment that we're currently lacking.
Sounds good. We have another question coming in terms of local shopping, and I'm going to come to you, Ian, if I may, and on to Chrissy for the same question. So I don't know who you are. You are TRB guests, so thank you, whoever you are. But what do the panel think of the growth of local shopping during lockdown? Is this habit here to stay, and is it a threat or an opportunity? Ian, over to you first.
Well, based on where I live and several local store retailers who saw an enormous growth in their business, certainly in the early stages of lockdown. And then as the environment has changed, they haven't kept the loyalty, or customers have not remained loyal. Now, is that the fault of the customer, or is it down to the retailer? But for local stores like greengroceries, those sort of things, it's quite difficult to think about customer engagement and some of the things that those of us in an online community might think are very straightforward. So I think there was a great opportunity. If there are more lockdowns, there is a great opportunity. But sadly, I think people are trying to go, in quotes, back to normal, which is very sad. What is exciting, though, is as we've lost stores like Debenhams, we've got things like Bobby's opening up with a whole raft of individual small retailers being given space. So So I think that's going to open people's eyes to differentiated high streets. And as Bill was saying earlier, but move away from the where am I? I don't know. This high street is exactly the same as everything else. I think it's encouraging.
Chrissy, what's your view?
Well, we started out as a one store, very much on the Brighton High Street, so very local, and like Brighton is our hometown. And as we've grown the number of stores, what we found is people refer to us as a chain, which I guess technically we are a chain, but we are still, our stores are operating, our store managers very much act like their stores are, the local hub of in that city, which is great, and we've nurtured that. But just to give you some context, but I think that it is interesting saying that I think it said like the customers haven't remained loyal. I think again this comes down to what we need to think about and remember is we need to understand what our customers' needs are. During that time, their needs were different. They wanted to show up for us on the high street because that was what their needs, that's what they wanted. Now, if you look at it as an opportunity, because at that point you've had a touch point with them, what you've actually done there is you've added a member into your community. You've gained somebody. Yeah, they may not even have gone through your till online, they may not even gone through your till in the store, but during that time they came to you on the high street because then that is what their needs were. Now their needs have changed, but that doesn't mean that you can't still have their loyalty. You just have to serve their needs in a different way. So to get them back into your store on the high street, you're going to have to entice them, give them reasons to come and show up for you again, or they may just want to be an online customer with you, and that's perfectly fine as well. So I think if you think about it like that, and there's definitely opportunity for building on the upsurge we saw of people shopping locally. Now, on a side point, I do think that value-led shopping, or that thought process that customer goes through that we all had during lockdown, where we were thinking about, we cared more where our things came from, didn't we? Because we had to slow down, and you had to really think whether you wanted something as well, because we had to queue for 40 minutes in a supermarket car park to get in. You really had to consider if you needed your shop when you were facing that. So I think the brands that have good ethics and authenticity, and they can prove that their produce or their product is fulfilling the values of the modern consumer, there's definitely opportunity there. Like being local is only one of those. There was an upsurge in craft, produced items, handmade items, eco items, independent shopping, all of that sort of thing as well. And I think those values are still there, definitely. I don't think they're going anywhere.
It's really interesting views. I was thinking over the weekend, because obviously the petrol station crisis, we'll call it, and no doubt, a huge failure at government level as well. But as a nation, we're really good at panic buying, obviously, as well. So I wonder whether we should just put on the news that the high street's going to be taken away from you any day now, and see whether there's just a surge of people that then run down their local high street to make sure that doesn't happen. Maybe that's the plan. We just create panic buying in the high street instead. But
I mean, I just think that the high street as the high street may die, as in the concept of having one strip, one street that's indie and one street that's your high street, and like people go there to do all their shopping, that may die. But the concept of having a space in your community where people want to hang out and engage with other people and brands isn't going anywhere. Might not look like a high street in 5 years' time necessarily, but that need, I do not think is, and who would want to live in that world anyway? I don't want to live in that sort of a world.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think there's definitely going to be there is a seismic change in terms of the look and feel and identity of those traditional strips, as you call them. But they'll still be there in shape or form. They're just going to look very different, and we might call them something different eventually as well. But the need to still be in somewhere is I think, still going to be in consumers' heads. Thank you, Chrissy. David, I'm going to come back to you. So your stores are techie, so you do a brilliant job at blending tech into your physical space. But not all retailers do a very good job. So it's very typical to go into a retailer and see demo units that are broken, or screens that are switched off, or things that are out of batteries or broken and so on. is that symptomatic of traditional retail? They sort of have a go with tech and then don't know how to execute it very well and then can't even keep it going. And does it make sense for retailers just to invest in the physical and forget that altogether? What would your advice be?
Yeah, I think unfortunately it is symptomatic of general retail apathy, certainly in the big box retailers. I think everybody would recognise that experience. I've been into a, if I just use an example, hopefully there's nobody who's going to be offended by this on the call, but you go into your local Currys and you pick up a headphone to see what those headphones actually sound like, and they don't work. And you have that experience no matter where in the country you are, no matter what time of day you go in, whether it's busy or quiet, and it just feels like the enthusiasm isn't there for it, and it's viewed as a distraction. And I think that's part of when Chrissy was talking earlier about the omnichannel approach, and that it can't just be a buzzword and it can't just be a box you tick. I think that's all symptomatic of that same problem. It's like, for big box retailers, click and collect is just an inconvenience for the store teams. They have to deal with something they would probably rather not deal with, and you end up getting directed to a desk at the back of the store that's poorly staffed, and you kind of wait around for a while until somebody comes. And I think that kind of execution is the same in these live demo experiences. I guess just in answering the question, perhaps worth if I pick up on the question that's just been asked in chat about connected experiences, because I think this is fundamental to how we address this. When we set out with our new concept, one of the things, having worked in retail all my career, what I wanted to eliminate was all the nasty, pointless, valueless exercises that come along with physical retail, changing POS, making sure your pricing's right, big monthly promo changeovers that take up the whole store team for 2 weeks at a time. We just wanted to get rid of all of that and remove all the opportunity for distraction, so that our store team could be entirely focused on the customer experience. So what that's meant for us in our concept is that we've removed paper POS entirely. We have no paper in the store, everything's digital. And whilst that sounds like a gimmick, and I think, to Ian's earlier point about, is that what the customer wants? We know that it is, because we can measure everything that happens in this store, from interactions on the tablet. So every bike has a tablet in front of it. That tablet shows a curated version of our central website. So that is a really key point, that, because I've worked in a number of retailers who could not implement electronic POS because they needed an interface between the two, between their back office system and their front end, generally some kind of content management system, CMS. And those things are horrendously expensive, require a whole dedicated team to keep them up to date, and often mean the whole thing just falls apart. We decided to do this a bit differently, and we surface all that information directly from our website. It's not just the website. The customer gets a different experience in the store, but that's where the information comes from. And the key thing about that is we change a price on our website, and 5 seconds later it is live across the whole store estate. We finish a photo shoot or a video on some new product, it's live across the whole store estate. And just the final thing I'd say about this, in terms of addressing that issue about kind of poor compliance, we also make sure that all of our showrooms are packed full of cameras. And one of the reasons we do this is so that if, in the event of, you'll see behind me here, that is Europe's biggest indoor 4K display. It's 9 meters wide. If that goes down, that is a really bad experience when the customer comes in. So we position cameras so that the IT team can troubleshoot all of our digital screens remotely. So if something goes down, it'll be back up in 5 minutes. Thinking about the experience right from that step is really important.
That is an incredible example. Thank you, sir. And yeah, I'm sure gives retailers much to think about with their use of blended tech into their stores. I'm going to just ask you a quick question, actually, while I've got you, and I'm going to ask Chrissy afterwards as well. So William Carson from Ascensos, thank you, William, wants to know how you're finding recruitment right now.
Challenging, I think is the key word. I think there's a number of forces going on. One thing I'll say about Ribble is that people often want to work in bikes, and we have a natural advantage in that regard. There's not many places you can work for a bike brand in the UK, so that does help us. But yeah, warehouse recruitment, entry-level role recruitment right now is really difficult. There's a number of well-documented pressures. People like Amazon offering really significant sign-on bonuses for entry-level warehouse jobs. That has pressure on entry-level roles right across the industry. The same thing's happening in hospitality at the moment. There's major sign-on bonuses, far better hourly rates. Now, we don't pay minimum wage, we pay national living wage, which helps. So we're not as much at risk as some people might be. But yeah, it's very, very hard to recruit at the moment. And I think being flexible with the kind of people you're looking for, and I know this is an easy thing to say and a hard thing to do, but recruiting for attitude, not just skill set, is also vital for us. As I mentioned earlier, looking at hospitality for retail positions is not something you normally do. We do it because it gets the right experience. It also helps us recruit in a tough market.
How are you finding recruitment, Chrissy?
Yeah, I mean, our retail recruitment's not too bad, to be honest. Again, like same really as David, we're a space, although it's not bikes, you know, we're becoming known for being a great place to work in terms of a retail job. And I was saying actually the other day that one of the you know, the things I feel proudest about is when you know, a fellow business owner in Brighton said to me that when he sees Bird and Blend team on a CV, they go straight through to interview. So it's really cool. So we're kind of getting known for that. I'm really proud. But so retail, not too bad, and warehousing and stuff is actually okay. Our retention is pretty good anyway. So we, you know, the team are, you know, but the bit we're struggling with is we've grown our marketing and our digital teams threefold since COVID. You know, our online has gone through the roof, and finding the right people, especially in e-commerce and digital, is really hard. It's a, you know, the market is mad out there, everyone's getting snapped up, so we're struggling with on the growth side of the sort of the external hires we need to make into the specialized digital side, and the marketing side has been tricky, especially if, you know, you're so protective of your brand, aren't you, and you've got to make sure that you get the right people are everything. So yeah, it can be frustrating to have to sit on a vacant position at the moment, but yeah, I'm sure it will ease in time, fingers crossed.
Ian, what are you seeing with people you're working with on this subject?
Pretty much the same. It's very difficult to find people. 2 clients are telling me for stores, and 3 of them finding difficulty in head office, even in London, as you might say, for merchandising and for marketing. And yeah, it is difficult. It's challenging out there. People are able to pick and choose a bit more. But I would like to applaud what Chrissy and David have both said, because they've both emphasized the importance of 2 key things. One is mindset in omnichannel, any sort of word that describes that, and one is the importance of people and getting the right people, because that's the key to making a difference to your business.
Thank you very much. I mean, I'm conscious of time, but we are nearly 45 minutes in, so we're going to start wrapping this up, this very busy morning of panels at the Retail Bulletin. But I'm going to ask each of you, beginning with you, Ian, to kind of wrap things up. I want to think about online reputation to sort of close off this multi-sales channel conversation. And if your online experience is poor, it's very unlikely you're going to be able to convert people into your stores as well, because obviously that's a window to the brand and an experience, and transactional flow of that is all part of the view the customer forms of you. What is the importance of online in attracting new customers? Because it's talked about as killing physical stores, but surely online is everything in terms of overall brand reputation, right? Ian, what's your closing words?
Okay. Well, I think the first thing to think about is geography. So I think neither Chrissy nor David have enough stores to cover their probable market within the UK. So there are customers who could reasonably get to stores. David's experience is fantastic. 500 miles to go bike shop. I would do that, but I don't know. I would probably do it at Ribble, but not in other places. So you have to think, well, realistically, what are the segments that I'm dealing with? They are different. And then if people have a bad experience online, it's much easier to find that out, because there's the opportunity to engage with them, to get feedback. One of the things I've done with a couple of clients in the past is just think about people whose first purchase involves a return of some or all of their products. Well, clearly things didn't go well if they don't exchange them. So what are we doing in terms of follow-up? So there is the opportunity, if you really think it through, to engage and try to win back customers who had a bad online experience. But I agree, I think it's unlikely that they're then going to go into a store. Now, most stores don't have a high level of data capture, so frequently it's not that easy to get the stats on it.
Thank you, sir. It's an interesting view, and thank you for your contribution to the panel today as well. You've been a great panelist, and thank you very much for giving up your time. I think you were listening to some of the other panels as well, so you've had a busy morning with the Retail Bulletin. Thank you. Chrissy, the importance of online reputation, and not just because of the importance of transactional success, but the overall brand perception.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it is the window, absolutely, but and also it's not just your website, it's the places people interact with you when they're in their own home or they're in their workplace. So it's when they're in your space, in your shop, and then everything else. So whatever they're using to find out information about you, to decide if they like you, to buy stuff, to hang out, to chat, to share gifts, wherever they are, whether that's your social media, whatever website, that's the place where they want to hang out, and they're going to suss you out, in their own time. And so it's really, really important. And actually, digital is a huge acquisition tool for new customers, huge. It doesn't operate in a silo, it's a journey, isn't it? And I think acquiring new customers is digital is always best for that, in terms of the breadth of what you can achieve, the reach you can achieve. And by sort of digital, again, I mean not just your website, I mean what you're doing across paid media, and getting into the spaces they're in, getting onto, we have a program of getting tea into the hands of podcasters, that talk about it on their show, because people are listening to it, like all those areas where people are hanging out outside of your store is an opportunity for you to showcase what you're doing and gain a new customer.
Thank you, Chrissy. Always a pleasure to have you on the panel, and loving what you guys are doing over at Bird and Blend. So thank you. David, I know you've got to run, so wrap it up for me, sir, at 100 miles an hour, so we don't lose you at the end. Your view on this this overall online piece and your overall brand.
I think Chrissy and Ian have said it all really. I think it's there's nowhere to hide anymore. You are your brand, and your brand is wherever you allow customers to interact with you. So you've got to be consistent across it. But my kind of closing remarks would be about excitement. I think as retailers, we have almost an obligation, a duty to excite our customers, and I think that goes whether you're selling. I recognise I'm in an advantage position here, selling beautiful, expensive bikes. That is an easy thing to get excited about. But that's I've done many things in my retail career, and that is what I've always tried to achieve. And I think if you can excite the customer, you win. And these days, to do that properly, you have to do it across all your channels, and you have to deploy technology, in my opinion. And I think when you do it right, you will smash your competition.
Got it. Thank you, and thanks for sticking with us, audience, as well. Again, great numbers for the panel discussion today. Someone's actually said, thank you, great online events, brilliant in-person events, fantastic insights and idea sharing. So there you go, someone's very happy. Good to hear. That's it. This session will be recorded and shared on LinkedIn and our YouTube channels. As always, we're back on the 18th of November. Check out the Retail Bulletin website for more information. But that is a wrap. Thank you to Chrissy, Ian and David for a brilliant sign off to a very busy morning. You are free to go. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Hope you enjoyed the compelling content, and see you all at the next one very soon. Bye-bye.